grandfather's left eye in the portrait had been watching Isabella Santos for 3 years. But the morning she found the truth, the house did not feel like a workplace. It felt like a witness. Theodore Blackwood had been dead for exactly 1 week. Heart attack, they said. A clean story with a clean ending. Yet, nothing about this mansion was clean. Not the air. Not the silence. And definitely not the secrets. Isabella worked from sunrise to nightfall. She knew every corner that servants were allowed to see, and a few corners they were never supposed to find. Like the portrait in Theodore's study, the one he visited when he thought nobody watched, the one he touched like it could forgive him. That morning, Isabella carried her cleaning supplies down the corridor and stopped outside the study door. Margaret Blackwood's order echoed in her mind. Off limits, private, untouched. But grief made Isabella reckless, and fear made her curious. She stepped inside. Leather, old books, faint cologne that still clung to the walls. Theodore's reading glasses sat on the desk. A pen lay uncapped. Her life paused, mid-sentence. Isabella's eyes drifted to the portrait. Theodore's grandfather stared down with a cold, painted authority. Isabella had seen Theodore stand here late at night, alone, breathing like a man about to confess. She had seen his hand move, hesitate, then press one exact place, as if the painting contained a lock. Isabella approached slowly. Her heart hammered. Her fingertip hovered over the portrait, trying to remember the gesture precisely. Then she did it. She pressed the grandfather's left eye. Click, taut. The portrait swung open like a door. Behind it was a small safe, recessed into the wall. And the safe was already open. Not forced. Not cracked. Used. Recently, Isabella reached inside and pulled out thick legal documents. She spread them on Theodore's desk with trembling hands. Last will and testament of Theodore James Blackwood. Why? Dated 2 weeks ago. Her eyes scanned the beneficiaries. Margaret Blackwood, $20 million. James Blackwood, $15 million. Charities, $5 million each. Then the line that froze her blood. Isabella Santos, $40 million. She read it again. Then again. Her name sat there like a mistake too large to ignore. Under the will, a letter waited in Theodore's careful handwriting. My dearest Isabella, if you are reading this, I am probably dead. You deserve to know the truth. Isabella lowered herself into Theodore's chair because her legs could no longer hold her. Her eyes moved down the page. Theodore described Bogota, a company party, a woman named Carmen Santos, a brief relationship that became a lifelong regret. He described an engagement to Margaret in America. He described a choice, money or family, status or truth, and he admitted what Isabella had never dared to hope. You are my daughter. Under the letter were DNA results. 99.9% probability of paternity. Theodore Blackwood was her biological father. Isabella stared until the words stopped feeling real. Her mother had never told her. Theodore had never told her. And now, he was dead. But the letter had one more section. Medical records from Dr. Patricia Fleming. Stage 4, pancreatic cancer. 6 months to live. Dated 8 months ago. Isabella's mind snapped into a new shape. If Theodore had cancer, why had everyone insisted heart attack? Why had Margaret looked so calm at the funeral? And why would a dying man rewrite his will in secret? A door slammed downstairs. Heels clicked against marble. Isabella's panic ignited. She shoved the documents back into the safe, closed the portrait, and grabbed her cloth like it could disguise her fear. The study door opened. Margaret Blackwood stood there in black morning silk, face flawless, eyes dry. Isabella, she said, what are you doing in here? Isabella lifted her cleaning supplies slightly. Cleaning, senora. Margaret stepped in and let her gaze sweep the room. She noticed the air, the angles, the silence. She moved like a woman trained to detect disruption. This room is off limits from now on, Margaret said. My husband's private space should remain undisturbed. Isabella nodded and turned to leave. Margaret's voice stopped her. You seem different today. Isabella forced a breath. I miss Senor Theodore. He was kind. Margaret's lips curved, not quite a smile. He always had a soft spot for projects. The insult landed. Isabella's hands tightened around the cloth. She turned carefully. Senora, may I ask something? Margaret's eyebrow lifted. Since when do staff ask questions? Isabella heard her own voice shake. Are you sure his death was natural? He seemed healthy. For a fraction of a second, Margaret's mask slipped. Not grief. Calculation. Then it returned. He had a weak heart, Margaret said. The doctor warned us. Isabella almost spoke the truth right then. Cancer, not heart. 8 months, not sudden. But she made a different mistake. The mistake of believing honesty could create safety. I found something, Isabella said quietly. Something you should see. Margaret's gaze sharpened. Show me. Isabella crossed the room and reopened the portrait. Margaret's eyes snapped to it. Not with surprise, with recognition. And that was the moment Isabella understood something terrifying. Margaret had known this mechanism existed. She had just never been the one allowed to touch it. Margaret's eyes fixed on the portrait, and Isabella saw it clearly. Margaret knew exactly what Isabella had done to open it. She knew Isabella had pressed the grandfather's left eye to find the truth. Isabella pulled the will and DNA papers out and placed them on the desk. Margaret read in silence. Her face changed in stages. Shock, disbelief, then rage, slow and controlled. 40 million, she whispered, as if the number was an insult. Isabella tried to keep her voice steady. I didn't ask for this. I didn't know. Margaret looked up, hatred now undisguised. You'll take it anyway, she said. Because people like you always take what you can. Isabella's cheeks burned. My mother raised me alone. She never asked him for anything. Margaret's laugh was sharp. Your mother wanted what wasn't hers, and now you're here to collect. Isabella swallowed, forcing courage. Did he really die of a heart attack? Margaret stepped closer, voice dropping into something almost gentle. Listen, she said. If you're smart, you will forget what you found. Isabella's blood turned cold. What do you mean? Margaret smiled. It was not warmth. It was warning. Accidents happen in old houses, she said. Stairs are slippery. Windows stick. People fall. Then she reached down and gathered the documents. Not snatching. Collecting. Like she was simply reclaiming property. Not a word, Margaret said. To anyone. The doorbell rang downstairs, long and insistent. Margaret tucked the papers under her arm and left the study as if nothing had happened. Isabella stood frozen. The documents were gone. The truth was now in Margaret's hands. And Isabella understood the new reality. She was not an employee anymore. She was a problem. That evening, Isabella called Dr. Fleming's office. The receptionist answered with a broken voice. I'm sorry, she said. Dr. Fleming passed away yesterday. Isabella nearly dropped the phone. Passed away. A clean phrase for an ugly thing. 2 days after Theodore's funeral. 1 day after Margaret took the documents. Isabella did not sleep. Near dawn, she heard slow footsteps outside her door. A pause. A faint turn of the handle. Then nothing. The footsteps left. Isabella sat in the dark, breathing quietly, and understood the message. Margaret could reach her any time. The next afternoon, Detective Olivia Hart stood in Dr. Fleming's apartment. Everything was too clean. No struggle. No chaos. A single gunshot. A staged quiet. Marcus Cole scanned the room, blue shirt wrinkled from the call. Professional, Marcus muttered. They wanted it to look simple. Olivia's eyes moved over wiped surfaces, an emptied filing cabinet, a missing computer. Someone stole her records, Olivia said. This wasn't about killing. It was about erasing. Marcus called the office, then looked up. Blackwood family, he said. She was their physician for 10 years. Olivia's jaw tightened. Theodore Blackwood died last week, she said. Marcus frowned. Heart attack. Olivia stared at the spotless countertop. The eyes never lie, she said quietly. But people do. They went to the Blackwood mansion. Margaret greeted them with practiced grief. "Poor Patricia," she said. "Who would hurt a doctor?" Olivia asked about threats. Margaret denied everything. Marcus asked for medical records. Margaret hesitated, just a fraction. Enough. They interviewed staff in the kitchen, and Isabella Santos could barely hold her cup. Her hands trembled. She avoided eye contact, but her fear wasn't guilt. It was survival. After the interview, Isabella pulled them aside near the service hallway. "I need to tell you something," she whispered. "But if I do, she will kill me." Olivia's gaze stayed steady. "Tell me anyway." Isabella told them about the portrait's safe, about the will, the DNA results, the cancer records, and Margaret taking everything. "She threatened me," Isabella said. "She implied Theodore didn't die naturally. She implied Dr. Fleming couldn't be asked anymore." Marcus's expression hardened. Olivia's mind sharpened into a line. Motive, opportunity, control, but I needed proof, not suspicion. A warrant search of the mansion gave them one immediate truth. Margaret had cleaned her tracks. No documents in Theodore's safe. No obvious poison in her room. No weapon lying around. Instead, they found something else. A private security invoice. Midnight visits. Early morning visits. Dates that matched Theodore's final days. Then, on the back stairwell, Isabella slipped. A tray crashed. Water spread across stone. Isabella fell hard, crying out. Margaret appeared 2 steps above, face calm. "She slipped," Margaret said smoothly. Olivia looked at the railing. It glistened. Not dust. Fresh. Intentional. Marcus's eyes met Olivia's. "This wasn't an accident," Marcus said. Olivia's voice stayed calm, but her eyes turned sharp. "It was a message," Olivia replied. They rushed Isabella into protection, and Olivia changed strategy. If Margaret was controlling evidence, then evidence had to be taken from where she felt safest. Money, records, a bank box. They pulled bank activity with emergency authority, and they got a hit. Margaret had visited a safety deposit box twice since Theodore's death. Olivia and Marcus obtained a warrant. Inside the safety deposit box was everything Isabella described. The real will, the DNA proof, and Dr. Fleming's handwritten notes. Digitalis. Administered over several days. Symptoms mimicking heart failure. A slow murder disguised as natural death. Marcus' jaw clenched. "She poisoned him," he said. Olivia read further. Fleming had documented fear, pressure, coercion, tunnel. She had signed what she was told to sign. Then she was killed anyway. Because fear stops working once someone starts talking. Margaret was arrested at sunset, in the sitting room where she had performed grief so perfectly. Handcuffs clicked. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She only said, "You have no proof." Olivia didn't argue. She simply laid out the proof. The documents hidden in the bank box. The physician's notes. The digitalis trail. The stairwell oil. Isabella's testimony. Margaret's confession came later, not from guilt but from impatience. "Theodore's dying," she said coldly. "Cancer. Months, not years." "So you decided to speed it up," Olivia replied. Margaret's eyes remained dry. "I decided to protect what he built," she said. "From scandal." Marcus leaned in. "And Dr. Fleming." Margaret's voice sharpened. "She became expensive," Margaret said. "She wanted more. She threatened to talk." Olivia's stare didn't blink. "So who had her executed?" Margaret shrugged, almost bored. "Smart people manage risk," she said. "Only fools let it grow." Weeks later, the verdict was guilty. Life imprisonment without possibility of parole. Outside the courthouse, Isabella stood in the cold air, reporters calling her name. They asked about money. They asked about forgiveness. They asked who she was now. Isabella looked at the cameras and realized something. The truth had cost 2 lives. It had almost cost hers. But it had also finally made her visible. "I'm going back to Colombia," Isabella said. to tell my mother's family the truth. Someone shouted, "Will you forgive Theodore?" Isabella paused. "He made a choice," she said. Then he tried to correct it. Correction doesn't erase the damage, but it proves he knew it was wrong. Later, when the courthouse emptied and the street quieted, Isabella returned once more to the mansion, escorted to collect her belongings. The house felt different now. Not lighter, just honest. She walked to the study. The portrait still hung in place. The safe was sealed, evidence logged, secrets cataloged. But Isabella stood before the painting anyway, breathing slowly. Because there are truths that don't live in paper. They live in the moment you finally stop being afraid of your own name. Isabella raised her hand and pressed the grandfather's left eye one final time. The click sounded softer now. Not like a trap, like release. The secret that destroyed a family was finally free. But the grandfather's eyes held one more secret. Legal disclaimer. This story is a work of fiction. Any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, or actual events is purely coincidental. Names, characters, businesses, places, events, and incidents are either the products of the author's imagination or used in a fictitious manner.